네, 안녕하세요. 디파이 농부 조선생입니다. 오늘은 조금 색다른 주제를 들고 왔습니다. 비트코인 블록체인, 더 나아가서 코인이 도대체 왜 필요한가? 라는 질문에 대해서 잠보 프로젝트를 통해 가지고 명쾌한 답을 한번 찾아보려고 합니다. 구독, 좋아요, 댓글 부탁드리도록 하겠습니다. 2019년 옥스포드 이코노믹스에서 발표한 예스 이코노미 보고서에 따르면 금융 서비스를 이용하지 못하는 개발도상국 인구가 모바일 폰을 통해서 금융 서비스를 만약 이용할 수 있다면 전 세계의 GDP에 2,500억 달러가 추가될 수 있고 개발도상국 GDP를 평균적으로 6%를 상승시킬 수 있다고 좀 발표한 바 있습니다. 화면에 보시면 현재 금융 서비스 혜택을 받지 못하는 인구는 대부분 개발도상국에 좀 치우쳐져 있습니다. 아프리카는 63%, 라틴 아메리카는 43%, 동남아시아는 35%가 금융 서비스를 이용하지 못하고 있는데, 재밌게도 이런 개발도상국들의 공통적인 특징은 34세 미만의 인구가 전체 인구의 50% 이상을 차지하고 있다는 점입니다. 한 예로 2050년까지 전 세계 젊은 세대의 35%가 아프리카에서 나올 수 있다라고 예측할 정도로 아프리카 같은 이제 개발도상국들은 고령화되지 않고 성장 가능성이 큰 국가로 부상하고 있습니다. 젊은 인구가 많기 때문에 이들은 모바일 폰에도 상당히 친화적입니다. 아프리카의 경우에 모바일 보급률이 한 50% 정도인데 한국이 67% 보급률을 기록하고 있으니까 얼마나 많은 젊은 인구들이 모바일 폰을 이제 활용하고 있는지 좀 알 수 있습니다. 이 화면에 보시는 이 타이틀에서도 모바일 인터넷 유저가 아프리카에서 굉장히 젊은 인구다라고 적혀져 있잖아요. 이만큼 이제 젊은 인구 분포와 이제 모바일 폰에 굉장히 친화적인 환경을 갖고 있는 게 이제 아프리카이다. 그리고 여러 개발도상국들이 앞으로 인터넷을 통해서 큰 부가가치를 좀 만들어낼 것이다 라는 것이 이 보고서의 요지입니다. 현재 아프리카에서 250조 원이 좀 안 되는 부가가치가 이제 창출되고 있지만 이 수치가 점점 이제 가속화될 수 있다는 것이죠. 옥스포드 이코노믹스가 모바일 폰의 보급이 개발도상국 사람들이 금융 서비스에 접근을 좀 용이하게 하고 결국 부가가치를 창출해서 GDP 성장을 앞으로 견인할 것이라고 얘기했던 이유기도 합니다. 하지만 젊은 노동 인구가 굉장히 풍부한 이 개발도상국에는 고질적인 문제가 하나 있습니다. 바로 인플레이션이 높아지면서 경제 시스템이 점차적으로 이제 붕괴하고 있다는 것이죠. 대표적으로 아프리카에서 GDP가 가장 높은 나이지리아는 2023년도에 화폐 개혁을 좀 단행하기도 했습니다. 화면에 보시는 것처럼 이제 모하마드 부하리 전 대통령이 나이지리아 화폐 개혁을 통해서 신권을 이제 발행했지만 일정 기간 동안 국권을 신권으로 바꾸지 않으면 이제 폐기한다는 정책으로 굉장히 큰 비판을 좀 받기도 했습니다. 단순히 디자인만 바꾼 신권으로 화폐 개혁이 어떻게 일어날 수 있냐는 비판이 요지였습니다. 시장에 유통되는 많은 화폐를 어떻게 보면 소각하려는 하나의 시도였다고 생각이 듭니다. 아무래도 나이지리아의 인플레이션은 2023년부터 조금씩 올라오더니 현재는 33%까지 치솟아 올랐기 때문에 어떻게든 화폐를 줄이려는 노력인 것 같습니다. 국가의 인플레이션이 높다는 것 자체가 화폐 시스템의 이제 붕괴를 또 암시하는 것이죠. EBS에서 취재한 내용을 살펴보면 학교를 다니지 못해서 글을 쓰지도 못하는 사람들이 은행 서류를 어떻게 작성하냐라고 하는 불만도 많았었고, 국권을 신권으로 바꾸려는 대규모 인파가 은행에 몰려가지고 좀 시스템이 좀 마비되기도 했다고 합니다. 결국 2024년도 나이지리아의 이 노조들은 월급으로 하룻밤 한 조각도 못 사먹는데 나 못 해먹겠다 라고 하면서 이제 총파업을 선언하기도 했었고요. 또 재밌는 것은 뭐냐면 나이지리아는 이것의 탓을 누구한테 돌린다? 바로 이 암호화폐 시장에 이제 돌리기 위해서 결국엔 바이낸스 직원을 이제 구금시키는 사태까지 일어나기도 했습니다. 높은 인플레이션으로 법정 화폐를 갖고 있으면 엄청난 큰 손해를 보기 때문에 사람들이 점차적으로 이제 가상화폐를 통해서 자신들의 상황을 좀 타개하려는 좀 수요가 높아진 것이 아닌가라고 좀 생각이 좀 듭니다. 화면 좌측 실제 데이터를 살펴보면요, 나이지리아는 비트코인 비트코인 결제가 가장 활발한 나라 중에 하나입니다. 또 다른 국가를 보면 가나도 있고요. 또 사우스 아프리카도 있죠. 스테이블 코인을 통해서 자국 법정 화폐 리스크를 좀 해지하려는 사람들이 굉장히 많고, 생활에서는 이 주황색과 이제 비트코인을 굉장히 많이 사용하는 것으로 집계가 되고 있습니다. 15개국 중에서 가장 가상화폐에 관심을 갖는 국가는 바로 나이지리아이고, 블록체인의 의존도도 이제 가장 높다고 집계가 된 바 있습니다. 결국에는 법정 화폐 시스템의 문제가 블록체인 기술과 가상화폐로 해결되고 있다는, 이것은 반증이라고 저는 해석을 할 수 있고, 전 세계에 왜 블록체인 기술과 비트코인이 필요한지를 좀 보여주는 대표적인 사례가 아닌가 좀 생각이 듭니다. 화폐 시스템의 붕괴, 풍부한 노동인구, 그 다음에 모바일 폰의 친숙한 사회인 것을 파악한 일본은 예전부터 아프리카의 페이먼트 사업을 하기 위해서 많은 스타트업들이 진출을 한 바 있습니다. 일본 기업들은 이제 SBI나 여러 가지 어떤 투자사들 통해서 이제 자금을 모집을 했고, 그 규모 자체가 한 8천만 달러에 육박한다고 합니다. 한화로는 약 1천억 원 정도 기록하고 있는 것이죠. 그만큼 일본은 아프리카의 사회적인 문제를 먼저 인지를 해가지고 많은 스타트업들이 선제적으로 좀 시장에 진출한 것 같습니다. 이런 개발도상국, 특히 아프리카의 고유한 특징인 젊은 노동인구, 모바일 친화적인 사회, 가상화폐의 친화적인 시장의 잠재력을 간파하고 일찍부터 새로운 경제체계를 구축하고 있는 스타트업이 하나 있습니다. 바로 화면에 보시는 잠보입니다. 잠보는 개발도상국들이 비트코인을 법정화폐 대신 사용하는 사람들, 그리고 그 사람들이 모바일을 통해서 여러가지 이제 거래를 하는 수요를 2022년에 간파를 해서 금융 서비스를 이용하지 못하는 인구를 블록체인 생태계로 끌어들여서 앞서 말씀드린 예스 이코노미를 실현하고 있는 팀입니다. 99달러의 저가 폰을 생산해서 블록체인 네트워크를 통해서 이제 P2P 거래할 수 있는 지갑과 마켓 플레이스를 만들고 다양한 앱들이 이제 설치될 수 있게 했습니다. 이를 통해서 개발도상국 젊은 세대들이 블록체인을 통해서 새로운 부가가치를 창출할 수 있는 환경을 구축한 것이죠. 현재 122개국에 41만 개의 스마트폰을 좀 공급했고, 120만 개의 이제 블록체인 월렛을 만든 것이 잠보의 성공을 좀 반증하는 거 아닌가라고 생각이 좀 듭니다. 잠보는 금융 서비스를 이용하지 못하는 인구에게 이 저가 스마트폰을 공급하고 가상화폐를 사용하고자 하는 젊은 인구를 웹3에 온보딩 시키고 있다는 것입니다. 블록체인 대중화와 이제 부의 재분배를 좀 실현하고 있다라고 생각이 들고, 더 많은 개발도상국 인구가 잠보 이코노미에 유입되면 될수록 네트워크 효과가 증가할 것입니다. 플랫폼으로서 다양한 사업적 가치를 만들 수 있다고 좀 생각이 듭니다. 흥미로운 점은 이제 화면에 보이시는 이 인물이 바로 잠보를 만든 창업자입니다. 이제 아프리카 이민 3세대인 이 젊은 사업가의 제임스 창이라는 인물인데, 포브스 인터뷰에 따르면은 아프리카에서 이제 16년 동안 생활을 하면서 사회적인 문제를 이제 피부로 많이 체감을 했고, 블록체인 기술로 이것을 좀 해결할 수 있다라고 생각이 들어서 잠보라는 스타트업을 이제 창업했다고 합니다. 아프리카 내러티브를 웹3에 세일즈한 잠보는 2022년도 미국 유명 이제 벤처 캐피탈이 패러다임 투자를 받아서 총 3천만 달러를 유치했고, 코인베이스 벤처스도 잠보의 비전에 동참한 게 굉장히 인상적입니다. 참고로 코인베이스가 개발도상국의 RWA 같은 것들에 굉장히 관심이 많은 회사입니다. 그래서 이 잠보가 코인베이스 벤처스에 투자를 받았다는 것은 굉장히 또 중요한 점이라고 저는 생각이 들고, 국내 기업으로는 해시드가 이제 투자에 좀 참여를 했습니다. 리서치 통해서 이제 잠보 프로젝트에 대해서 굉장히 좀 흥미를 많이 느꼈습니다. 그래서 창업자 인터뷰를 공식적으로 요청을 했는데, 또 운이 좋게도 인터뷰에 응해 주셔가지고 비디오를 좀 제작할 수 있었습니다. 잠보의 비전을 함께 한번 들어보시죠. So, hello James. How are you doing?
Hello, Professor Joe and audience. Good. How are y'all?
Yeah, so we met in the Hong Kong the last month, and it was very exciting.
Oh man, the energy in Hong Kong, I think in like most Asian cities is pretty off the charts. Like Seoul, Tokyo, Hong Kong, Bangkok, very awesome.
Yeah. So could you please introduce yourself and describe your position at the Jumbo?
For sure. Hello everyone. I'm James, co-founder and CEO of Jumbo. Little quick background on myself for everyone. I'm ethnically Chinese, but I grew up in the DRC in Central Africa in the Congo. I was there for 16 years. My family's been there 3 generations, so grew up my whole life. Ended up in New York. I studied computer science at New York University. 2015 was my sophomore year. I bought my first Ether. And then when I graduated in 2017, I ran a crypto fund for 4 years before starting Jumbo.
Wow. So how did you start the crypto journey in your life?
So I'll say it started when I was born, bro. Yeah. Because what I mean by that is, what is the crypto journey? You're solving problems that Web 2 doesn't solve using Web 3 solutions, cross-border payments, remittances, banking and banked, all problems in emerging markets. So from the moment I was born, in Africa, you see these problems every day. You cannot send money to your friend in Ghana if you're in Congo. There is no Venmo, there's no Kakao Pay, there's no WeChat Pay. So it honestly is a very fragmented society. And growing up in emerging markets, I sort of understood that. Now, how I got exposed to crypto was a computer science class in NYU in 2015. That's where I bought my first Ether. But to actually take the plunge as a career in and say, hey, the next 10 years, I just graduated from 21 years old to 31. I'm just going to be building in this space. That takes a lot. And I have to thank my sister who really pushed me to just dive straight in after college.
Wow. That is why you founded Jumbo, right?
Yes. So Jumbo, it came about because I was running the crypto fund for 4 years, from 2017 to 21. And I was like, I got into crypto for those problems, like cross-border payments, remittances, banking and banked, everything to do with the emerging markets, not just Africa, right? There's also Latin America and Southeast Asia and Web3. So in 2021, I was like, I don't want to be an investor anymore. I'm turning to operator. And these are the problems I want to solve, starting Jumbo. Raised our first seed round then. Luckily, some friends supported. So Coinbase, Tiger Global, a few other investors took a chance on us. And then in 2022, mid-years, when we did the big raise, our Series A led by Paradigm. Yeah, the phone, honestly, has been in development for a long time. And I'm sure we'll get into that later in the podcast, but I think it takes time for people to realize how hard supply chain, like real life supply chain is. It's just very tedious, very hard. It's very operational, hands-on heavy. I think it's very different from usual Web3 products and apps, which is why sort of our time. I'm in Hong Kong at the moment because supply chain wise is closer from here.
Okay, so what is a Jumbo and what market problem did you identify that led to founding of the Jumbo?
For sure. Jumbo, essentially, we are bringing emerging markets on chain. So Latin, Southeast Asia, Africa on chain through mobile infrastructure, because each of these markets completely leapfrog past computer, laptop, and desktop era. No one uses that. Everything is mobile. So in order to bring the best Web3 applications, right? What does that mean to build the mobile infrastructure for Web3? It basically just means to get the best Web3 apps into the hands of users in these countries and cities. So for us, it's in the form of a phone, the Jumbo phone. Now, if a phone company, I always say this, would be the #1 Web3 company in the world, right? Then Apple, Samsung has already won the game. But it's not. A phone is just a phone without the applications and everything that's inside. So what the Jumbo phone is, it's a phone that comes pre-installed with applications. In the first cohort, there's 15 applications. Jumbo is only one of the applications. What Jumbo app is your multi-chain wallet, as well as your questing platform that tells you what to do in the other 14 apps. Now, say the other 14 apps, one of them is Matrix Fire. Great partner of ours, fully liquid, 1 FTV token. Get to level 5, level 20 on Matrix Fire, earn Fire tokens directly to your wallet, and we provide you on-ramp, off-ramp in your local jurisdiction. So the idea is you spend time inside the phone and you will earn money. And this is from the partnerships and applications and these apps that want to distribute their tokens. Because what does every Web3 company need? Users. What do every user in emerging market need? Money, quite frankly. But what do they have? Time to spend to earn and be incentivized through your token by doing things in your ecosystem.
Yeah. So how's the sentiment toward the crypto in Africa? Do they prefer crypto more than like the local bank?
Great question. To be honest, 50% of Africa is unbanked. And what is Africa? It's a continent of 54 countries with more than 1.5 billion people. Right. So every jurisdiction is a little bit different. Now, Nigeria and Kenya are generally known as the largest markets, like the Silicon Valley of Africa. There's a lot of the activity comes out. It's also 2 of the top 10 countries in the world by peer-to-peer Bitcoin transactional volume. So given that 50% of the population is unbanked, it's a mobile heavy, there's more than 50% smartphone penetration throughout the continent, great 4G connection, very young, the youngest continent up and coming. All of these statistics added together gives you people that don't want to use traditional banking rails because they either don't have access, because even if you give everyone a bank account, they still don't have access to the global financial infrastructure because they don't have credit, right? They don't have a credit system at all. Your phone number is basically like your credit. It's like your ENS domain in Africa. So they really are looking. When I say they, is being very general, but I'll give you an idea, right? Like the friends I grew up with in Congo use crypto every day. My friends that went to NYU with in New York use crypto every day, just for different reasons. In Congo, it's to actually pay salaries, their companies, to send money cross-border, pay your supplier in Dubai in order to bring it in. Versus in New York, it's more trading on Coinbase and others and speculation.
So in your opinion, so what value do Africa or other developing countries contribute to the crypto markets?
Great question. I would say the most interesting part of crypto for me, the biggest potential, is the global south and emerging markets and the potential that the young users bring. Now, VCs and company founders have been saying for decades, not even years, decades, hey, this is the year that Africa or LATAM or et cetera will come up, right? But how many publicly listed Web2 companies are there? Out of Africa, there's only one, Jumia. And that's a Rocket Brothers company. In LATAM, there's like dLocal, there's Nubank, up and coming unicorns like Rappi, still around the sort of super app, food delivery and content. I think the most important in these emerging markets is all these apps are integrating more and more crypto. It's hard. We're not a news channel. It's hard for us to broadcast. But if you could see, we're shipping to 122 countries right now. We have a live dashboard on Jambo.technology. The countries we're shipping to, like for example, Brazil is top 10 countries, right? Thailand, top 10 countries. It's insane the amount of integrations that actual fintechs locally are doing with crypto that people just don't know about. The only headlines you hear is Stripe integrates USDC on Solana, right? That's a huge news. You hear BlackRock buys 2 billion of ETF Bitcoin, but it's hard to hear like a Transact or a Telefonica out of Mexico, a telco that integrates crypto or something like that. So that's sort of what we want to showcase, that this is actually the most interesting part, in our opinion, of crypto, to onboard these users and providing tools.
Wow. So in 2022, Paradigm led the funding round. And what was the narrative you highlight at the time? And 2 years have already passed. So do you think the initial narrative is still valid?
Great question. When we talked with Paradigm, just full disclosure for everyone that's tuning in on the channel, there was, I think, 2 to 3 months of due diligence. Let's just say 2 months of due diligence. The first month, we didn't even talk about Jambo or me. We only talked about Africa, LATAM, Southeast Asia, emerging markets, and the potential. It's like, tell me about it, because not a lot of Web3 VCs go and spend time. They're like, tell me about the local region. What are the problems? Why are you the team primed to solve it? That comes after them. But first, you have to prove the region is worth it. So that was for the first month. Now, the second month is around how Jambo and why Jambo will be the team to solve that. The narrative is and always has been on onboarding the next wave of Web3 users. Now, not to put a term of millions or billions or et cetera, but however much the total addressable market is, it's the up and coming youngins. And we see sort of governments even shifting to this. El Salvador, right? Completely treasury and Bitcoin, putting it on chain so that the anti-corruption, anti-everything, which is insane for a kid that grew up in Congo, because that would honestly solve a lot of problems. So yes, narrative-wise, I think there's a lot of things that floats around, include DePIN, et cetera. So happy to get into it. At the end of the day, Jambo is here to bring mobile infrastructure to emerging markets.
Okay, so the DeFi concept is pretty new to the crypto. So apart from the Helium and the Hypermapper, there are not many like a DePIN project in 2022. So how confident are you that this sector will dominate the crypto market?
So I'll say, yeah, Honey, Hivemapper, like Helium, just got off a call, Helium Mobile, different team. You got Render, et cetera, all amazing companies and narratives. Now, DePIN, decentralized physical infrastructure networks, it really depends on your view of the market. But for us, like, I think there's a misconception to how much time founders spend watching the market. It's very little versus what people think, because you're dealing with everyday operational things and other founders that you're partnering with. So what I can say from my own information that maybe is not as public, retail users see every day, is we're partnering with 2 or 3 of these companies, and the amount of actual traction that is happening is pretty astounding when you actually dig into their data room and speak with the team on a daily basis. So I'm very bullish in general on the sector and for what it represents.
Yes. So, and these days, Layer 1 has started launching their mobile phones, like the Solana or Tons. Why do you think they are doing this?
Yeah. Great question. I think everyone, company DNA is a bit different. I think it's hard to just say all doing phones. I'll say this, right? The Solana saga, Anatoly's vision is to disrupt the duopoly of the app store, right? So that's why the Solana App Store, seed phrase secured. That's the selling point that we're going for. That's why it started off as $1,000 phone, then go to 500, but in that premium price range that, crypto users and in first world countries you can afford. For Jumbo from day one is $99. That's our price point, right? Some of the clothing that users that are watching this wearing is probably more expensive than that because that's the only price point of what we want to accomplish to do. And that's distribution. Just one word, distribution. Get as many phones out there as possible around the world in the markets that matter to us. And from there, our partners, our investors, that's where the value comes in, where we can pre-install and loop in entire to the back end of the flywheel. The Ton phone, I haven't heard as much from it. Seems like great guys as well, though. It's all love. This is if you're in crypto in general, you're contrarian, and you're early to certain trends, and to build on it for an even earlier trend, it's pretty awesome. I'll give you guys an example, right? Sometimes it can be too early for a trend, and then people catch on later. Solana Saga, when we were still developing the Jumbo phone, in August, I think 2023, Saga comes out, right? I'm excited. I order my Saga, everything. I'm like, hell yeah, this is cool. We're targeting different markets, crypto phone. I was very disheartened when I heard, crypto Twitter, people were not receptive to the Solana Saga as well in the beginning, right? They're like, oh, $1,000 phone, et cetera, et cetera. I was like, to my team, this is not a phone. And to my friends, this is a platform. And you'll see. A few months later, one company airdrops their native token to the phone and you earn back X amount of what you paid for it. That's bonk, right? Amazing. One single company in the Solana ecosystem. So I say all this to say that I really see phones and these physical infrastructure networks as a platform to enable more value. And it's pretty intangible to see that this early. So I'm very excited for the journey ahead.
Yeah. How many, like the Jumbo, the phones are distributed which countries and how many countries users are using right now?
Great question. If you check jumbo.technology, our live dashboard, there's about 380,000 phones orders at the moment to 122 countries. And we're still this is a V1 of the dashboard. So we're still adding a functionality where we can click into the countries and see. But I'd say Latin America is one of our largest markets at the moment. If you look at the market in general, LATAM is a decade or two ahead of certain areas in Africa in terms of how everything grew in the population and talent. So a big focus of ours is spent there as well, on top of Africa and Southeast Asia. I will say our daily active usage time on the Jumbo phone is 5 hours from our users. So from that, we can deduct it's at least a secondary or primary phone for a lot of users in their markets. Yeah, there's some other interesting stats I'd love to share. We're going to add to the live dashboard, but it's been pretty fun, even interacting with the different markets. Because like, for example, Brazil, that's Portuguese, like I don't speak Portuguese. I grew up in Congo, I speak French there. So I have an advantage like West Africa and certain regions, but for some others like Spanish and Portuguese speakers, it's very, very tough for me. But to interact with the actual users through our team is fun.
So what strategy do you have to compete against other like the home projects like the Jumbo or Saga, whatever?
For sure. I wouldn't say, I don't think I've ever thought of a strategy to directly compete with Saga or any of the phone company because we don't see ourselves as a phone company, so they're not competitors. But the strategy that we do think about Jumbo every day is supply chain, distribution, and how to tie all that in together in the flywheel with our J token in the ecosystem. So that's a lot of the team spends time on.
You mentioned that the Jumbo is the platform where the user can enjoy the crypto things, and then what kind of a value you can add on the platform, and then based on, with the a lot of the users, what are you focusing on and what are you developing more in the future?
For sure. I'd say right now we have two types of users. The first is those in, say, Brazil, Africa, et cetera, that are buying the phone to spend time inside of it. Their wallet is actually banking them and they can actually start using it like in emerging market phone. The second type of our user is most likely those that are listening to this stream right now. Those that understand crypto very well and might be using the Jumbo wallet as a mechanism for receiving token distribution from certain partners, right? Another word for that would be airdrop, but we don't use that word around here. So what we are more and more developing, number one is partnerships, content, right? UGC content, partnerships. So you'll see we have cohorts. So in the first cohort, there's 15 apps. In the second cohort, we're adding more in, and it will only add more functionalities. For example, before our multi-chain wallet only supported, say, 4 chains. Now it will support 7 chains. So just more and more things for the user. And the second thing is, even if you're in Korea, versus in Brazil, you don't need to earn that $2 or $5 from playing a game and tokens. But I think this is actually what gets users more into Web3. When you have these small rewards, constant, you see, and you get into Flywheel, you see no matter right or wrong of what Jumbo does or the other apps and how we designed it, you start to see how these apps work. And if they're selected, not to respectfully, we have a huge pipeline of different partnerships and games. And if it's selected for the Jumbo phone, most likely it's more global and it's very liquid, the token. So it's a top project. So it's our honor to showcase that to our partners, to our users too.
So can you share your roadmap for the Jumbo's development?
For sure. The roadmap right now, bro, is we're just getting as many phones out as possible. We're sort of a little backlogged. We're sold out of phones until the end of June. So that's one of the biggest priorities right now, getting the factories more throughput, supply chain, getting more phones out. But other than that, roadmap wise, I think everyone can tune in. This year, we'll have our sort of ecosystem. A lot of things will release, given, that's why we also ramped up our marketing. We're going to most of the conferences. I just finished like 6 weeks of conferencing. We have the booth. I think a big advantage of hardware, like a phone versus just software, is people can actually play with it, touch it, see what's up. So it's like a lot of demonstration. Sort of like, I don't know if you watch Shark Tank, but how entrepreneur usually chooses like their shark they want to go with. If they choose Mark Cuban, it's because he's tech and he's cool. But if it's Lori, it's because she's the queen of QVC. And some products just need to be showcased, right? You need a minute for users to understand. So that's a lot of what we're doing right now, because there's a discrepancy between, I feel like, the amount of work that I'm doing and stuff and the amount that we're showing on Twitter and etc. So we'll probably post a bit more as well.
So what is the vision or the end goal for the Jumbo?
End goal for Jumbo is, if anyone listening to this is holding a Jumbo phone, that will be the end goal. That will mean we succeeded in distribution and we succeeded in scaling a flywheel of different partners to distribute their incentives and tokens to y'all, for sure.
Yeah, I have a Jumbo.
Hey,
I just test and a lot, and it's pretty good. So when I turn on the phone, and then the Jumbo logo is come out, and it's pretty nice.
I appreciate it. And this is just generation one, right? Like this is the first generation phone we're making. I think there's a lot more to be expected. For example, we don't have the fingerprint scanner on it right now. Front camera scanning for wallet Face ID creation. There's a lot of other features that are cooking right now that you guys will see in either later version of Jumbo or in the second Jumbo phone.
Yeah, the best part is the price is not that expensive, just $99 for phone. So I think it is your strategy to attract more user to your platform. So, but compared to other like the high quality of the phone, it's I feel like more people can use in the developing countries. So do you think just developed country, like the people can use this phone for crypto or their daily life?
No, for sure. With the screen time of 5 hours, or assuming a lot of people are using it in their daily life, I will say this though, the phone, right? If you take the Jumbo phone and you compare spec by spec with the iPhone, the specs are not going to be as good, right? Like camera, there are certain things that it's just the pricing is what it is. Jumbo does not make a single dollar from the phone, right? From out the factory to then when it's sold at $99, all the margin between is given to sales, custom tax, and then to our distributor. Our goal is to get as many phones out as possible because that is our biggest advantage. With that being said, if you play, what do you need? What does a person in, say, Korea or in China need their phone for every day? Texting, work stuff, watching videos, gaming. Gaming probably needs the highest specs for a phone. Play Matrix Fire, Garena Free Fire, PUBG, PS games work with no lag, even Genshin Impact on the phone, good internet connection. So we've really tried to maximize as much as we could spec-wise for the price point, because as you said, it is for an emerging market user to use every day. But if you ask me, if the users on this show, after they buy the Jumbo phone, will give up their phone and start using the Jumbo phone, I doubt it, just to be realistic. But it could be a second phone.
Okay, so do you have the last word to the Korean community?
I guess my last word is thank y'all, because Korea is actually a top 15 market for us right now. I love Korea. I love Seoul. I don't speak Korean, but our head of partnerships, Sam, does. So hopefully he can get on and, in native language, and you guys want to see the subtitle. Second, I'll say is I think the Korean community, as everyone knows, is a lot more active than other communities, whether with, price action, buying action, getting involved with projects. So I will be sure to loop you and Professor Joe ASAP for any development we have, so y'all community can see it first.
Okay, thank you for your time. It was a nice interview.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
블록체인, 비트코인, 더 나아가서 코인이 왜 필요한가에 대한 질문에 대해 답변을 해줄 수 있는 대표적인 사례가 나이지리아의 실패한 화폐 개혁과 법정 화폐보다 가상화폐에 높은 신뢰를 주고 있는 개발도상국들의 움직임이라고 저는 생각합니다. 블록체인과 비트코인이 우리가 살아가는 세상에 큰 의미를 주고 있다는 것이죠. 오늘도 소중한 시간 내어주셔서 감사하고 디파이 농부 조 선생은 더 좋은 컨텐츠로 찾아뵙도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다. 빠이.